I know that Jack's probably on her way. Now we got stop by the train. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. I know we got several delegations. Let me, just as a reminder to us sitting up here, this time that we spend having delegations come, so vitally important that we hear from the public and listen to their concerns. I do want to remind us that this is not a time for dialogue, for us to ask them questions and them to ask us questions. That's not the purpose of that. Now, if we want to do that, we can, but that needs to be at a separate time instead of during this delegation time, because we want to hear from everybody. So just want to give us that reminder. We have several tonight. So, Ms. Jones?
Okay. Thank you for your interest in addressing the Hamilton County Board of Education. During your presentation, please address the board as a whole, not individual board members or administrators. Also, please do not present complaints or concerns you have about an individual employee of the school system. If you wish to voice those complaints and concerns, you should contact the central office and ask for a meeting with the superintendent, since the superintendent is responsible for individual employees. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. I will tell you when you have 1 minute left. You may begin when you're ready. We're going to start with Lindsay Lynn.
Good evening, school board members. Thank you for listening to my speech tonight. It's about IEP funding, but first I just want to start with saying Gavin's with me tonight. I brought him, and God gave me Gavin because he opened my eyes to a world of disability I didn't know existed. And in that world of disability comes a school system I didn't know existed until I had a child with disability. And as you heard Mr. Hampton speak after I spoke at the last school board meeting, IEPs are so essential to these kids with disabilities to help provide them the services they need to be successful within your school system. And the funding just isn't there, right? So I loved to hear you guys deny the school voucher system, because the school funding needs to be in the public school system because of IDEA, because of FAPE. These kids have a right to a free and appropriate education. These kids are not different, they're less. They're not less. Okay, sorry, I said that wrong. They are different, not less. Okay, and in order to properly support these people that have differences that we're not accustomed to, we're not used to seeing, just like I'm a mom who has 2 other kids other than Gavin, I wasn't used to seeing a disability until I had my child. And working with him has just opened my eyes to stuff that I have never thought I would ever have to deal with before. And I know with the school system, you guys are trying to learn and you are doing the best, but we need the funding, which is why my husband and I were fighting for the policy change, because we know the funding may not be there to give Gavin all the services he needs. So we're like, let us provide the service. Let us try to find a way to help with that problem in that situation. Because I want you guys to be just excited about Gavin coming up here and speaking one day and saying, because of Hamilton County and the services you gave me, just like Mr. Hamilton did after I spoke last meeting, I'm going to be successful. Like, this is my plan. This is my post-secondary education plan. This is my plan to live an independent life because those services were offered to me. And just like my oldest son, you guys were so happy and proud to have him come up here as a 6th grader, telling you what he wants to do possibly as a career option for him already in 6th grade. I want that for Gavin as well. You know, and I don't want funding to be a problem. He's a person, not a price tag, not a dollar sign. He wants to be successful. He wants to thrive. He just needs additional services to do that. And I know it is extremely hard sometimes. But Gavin, you want to come up here? He's nervous. I was practicing with him and hoping he would come up here, because on the way here, he was telling me the things he wants to do when he grows up. What do you want? Okay.
Come on up, Gavin.
I'm sorry.
Come on, Gavin.
Come on, guys. come speak in the microphone? He's tired and he's nervous. But I promise you on the way here, I said, Gavin, what do you want to be when you get big? He said a plumber. He said a tree cutter. He said a gas station worker because I want to sell people candy. He said he wants to work at a wastewater treatment plant because he loves wastewater stations and sewer systems. This kid could talk to you about them all day long. Just having that option and having that availability through the school system and making sure we're getting that funding to make this happen is huge, because at the end of the day, disabilities is a spectrum, right? It's a complete spectrum from, you saw Mr. Hampton up here speaking, to my son who won't even come up here and speak on the microphone right now. But, you know, I don't see disabilities just as a spectrum of disabilities. I see it as a spectrum of possibilities. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions? No. All right, thank you.
Marlene Wolf.
Good evening. Thank you, leaders of our board, and thank you for the leaders of our district. My name is Marlene Wolf. I am the RTI facilitator at Westview Elementary. I stand here today as an advocate for all students enrolled in Hamilton County Schools. However, I will be specifically addressing the observed lack of support for the R Tier 3 population, to include Ex-Ed at Westview Elementary. We have an urgent problem at my school in our compliance in serving our Ex-Ed and Tier 3 students. We simply do not have enough support staff. The new staffing model is not working, yet providing what I feel is a hands-off approach by our district. My school was denied requested support for our Ex-Ed team on 9/16 of 24 from our Ex-Ed department at central office. And recently, on January the 8th of 2025, a scheduled central office Ex-Ed support parent meeting was canceled 13 minutes before the meeting, resulting in cancellation of student services and lack of requested support. Gaps in our subgroups continue to widen, and we do not have the staff available to support the classroom teachers in their quest to differentiate their instruction. I have some typed testimonies from my school if you're interested. Because of this, students are angry because they can't do the work, resulting in school violence and a decline in teacher retention. Last year, my school was hovering around 90% teacher retention. This year alone, we had 2 teachers leave in January, 2 teachers retiring, and an estimated 3 more teachers not returning next year. In reference to the statement, students are angry, they hate school because they struggle with reading and writing. According to the National Library of Medicine, titled "Are Reading and Behavior Problems Risk Factors for Each Other?" Paragraph 3 states that we found that children with reading problems in 1st grade were significantly more likely to display poor task engagement, poor self-control, internalizing behavior problem. Time is critical. Again, this is an urgent problem, but not an unfixable task. We cannot continue to blame departments or people, but rather develop a plan that supports the needs of all students in Hamilton County. And that is simply, my idea is adding mandated interventionist and support staff, not on a staffing model, but rather a non-negotiable position. I close with my quest for this audience to hear my advocacy for students. I am in hopes that there will be no further retaliation from our district leaders, which affected me professionally after speaking at a community meeting at my school in December. I have served Hamilton County for 27 years as a teacher, an academic coach, and now an RTI facilitator. I pride myself in my great reputation as a level 5 employee with outstanding parent relationships and engagement. Yet I'm disheartened by the district leader's recent determination to remove me from a leadership team because I was speaking for the children in our district. We can do this, but we must recognize the problem. We need to put our boxing gloves down and be willing to listen to the heart of the people on the front line, and I'm one of those people. I'm speaking to you because I'm weary, I'm exhausted, and I'm trying to advocate for support for my school. And now I stand alone at Westview Elementary as the only full-time interventionist to serve 43 Tier 3 students. The students in Hamilton County need your help, all of our help. Don't let them down. Please remember our why. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I'd like to speak, if I could,
Well,
to that topic.
let's stick by what this is intended for us to hear from the public. And if we need to address that particular topic, we'll call a special committee meeting or another meeting and have this discussion any way we want to have it. But that's what this is intended for. If we get into a back and forth with every person that comes to us.
Okay. Make a motion to discuss special education.
I second that motion.
You can't,
We can vote on it, yes, we can.
not in an agenda session, not in a
Okay,
work
then
session.
Maybe the next section.
I mean, you can't.
Okay,
If
we
we
can't
want to change,
no.
right, if we want to change the way we handle our delegation time and make a motion to that, we can do that. But I'm following the process that's in place right now, okay?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, instead of addressing this, I think we ought to be looking at having some committee meeting in regards to this so that we can hone in on this one
Absolutely.
particular topic instead of just
Absolutely.
bringing it up.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
what
would
he
be
was
my
saying.
suggestion.
That's exactly what I asserted. I'm just trying to follow the policy that's in place right now. And we can change that if you guys want to. Okay? Go ahead.
Rebecca Day. No, be a daughtery.
Right here.
Okay, good evening or good afternoon. Let me just say this up front. This is not about a book ban, and I'm not here to personally request a reconsideration of any of those books. I'm here to provide information to the board. I brought printed excerpts for each board member. These are just some of the worst books that are currently in Hamilton County schools based on a search of the library.hcde.org website. We've been talking about this since COVID. This issue has been legislated and litigated in Tennessee, and several counties have started taking action based on the amended act. Williamson County has restricted and removed books. Wilson County has removed 400 plus books. Rutherford County has removed 6 books so far, and Knox County recently removed 48 books. You have hard copies because when we previously attempted to send explicit excerpts via the board email, the school system's email server blocked them due to explicit content. It's concerning that your email system blocks explicit content for administrative purposes when adults are receiving information, yet students have access to this content in the schools every day. Let me touch on sex and kids for a moment. A PhD recently spoke at a Tennessee school board, and he explained that adolescent males' testosterone levels explode by up to 30 times between the ages of 13 and 15, and females' estrogen explodes by 17.5 times during the same period. Since us older folks have lower levels, consider how this information relates to your own experience as you read this pornographic material. In layman's terms, if your nether regions feel anything at all while you're reading this porn, double it or triple it. That's the student's experience while reading the same material. The law is called the Tennessee Age Appropriate Materials Act, and it mandates the public schools maintain a list of library materials and prohibits certain content for K through 12 students. As a matter of law, the categories that are deemed inappropriate are materials that contain nudity, descriptions of nudity, or of sexual excitement, which is defined to include arousal of human genitals, sexual conduct, which includes patently offensive representations of certain sexual acts, excessive violence, sadomasochistic abuse, patently offensive material, or materials appealing to prurient interests. If you find that one of these statutory definitions is met, the law requires that you find the material is not age appropriate and that it shall be removed. Summary of the policy requirements are: you have to develop a library collection, feedback mechanism, evaluate feedback, remove inappropriate materials, and perform periodic review of materials. Specifically, the library collection at each school must be reviewed periodically to ensure materials remain age appropriate and aligned with the school's educational mission. Pursuant to this state law, I would like very much for you to respond and confirm when was the last periodic review, how often does Hamilton County perform a periodic review, and are the reviews documented? It is my understanding Hamilton County intends to disregard this law, claiming it's unconstitutional. This sets a dangerous precedent. Consider what happened in Williamson County. They were sued and lost. The court in Williamson County required the board to go back, review the books they refused to remove, specifically answer the following questions. Are the books consistent with the educational mission of the school, and are the books appropriate for the age and maturity level of the students who may access them? I would like to remind everyone that there is a reconsideration process you can follow if you disagree with having pornographic materials available to children. You can go to the Moms for Liberty website in Hamilton County and find excerpts of all the books that we've made available today. Today, I'm requesting that the board revise policy 4.402 to comply with Tennessee state law. This includes establishing a procedure for periodic review of school library collections, including digital, to ensure age appropriateness and alignment with the educational mission. The review must adhere to the statutory definitions of inappropriate content. I'll end with this. I understand the Freedom from Religion Foundation has demanded the removal of the Bible from Hamilton County schools. I urge the entire board to please read the Bible and those books. And please just continue to read the Bible from cover to cover. I would also recommend that you research the Freedom from Religion Foundation and find out who they're connected to on this board. Thank you.
We all did.
Okay.
We all had those folders.
So I'm trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be understanding. Like, do I have everybody's stuff or just some people's stuff?
Probably everybody.
That's no way possible, because this stack is just as big as that stack, but this is a little bit stack.
Let's get going.
You can ask her.
I'll ask her after. It's worth the mind. I'll clarify. No, it's okay. I'll come to you with the break. Harriet Reed. I'm sorry, Ms. Reed.
Within Hamilton County schools, there are schools that practice restorative justice as a tool for providing discipline. Restorative justice is not a practice that any of these students will find once they leave the school system. Rather than face consequences for not following school rules, students are given counseling to discuss their feelings and emotions regarding their transgressions. As old as I am, I can still remember my school days and all the things that I tried to get away with because I just wanted to do things my way and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. If my school had practiced restorative justice, I would have played that system like a harp and gotten away with everything because restorative justice isn't a punishment or a consequence that I would have tried to avoid. Instead, what I got were real consequences as outlined by the school for every student who attended. Additionally, my parents were notified, and I faced more consequences once I got home. What I learned was that every action, whether it was negative or positive, had a consequence, and those negative actions resulted in unpleasant consequences. I learned that life was a lot easier when I followed the rules. This prepared me for my entrance into society, where breaking the rules translates into breaking the law. When you're an adult, when you break the rules, the consequences can be much more severe, which include either receiving a ticket, which could result in a hefty fine, or jail time as prescribed by law. Either of these could have long-term consequences, such as higher insurance costs, denial of services, denial of employment, or all sorts of other things. I would like to ask you to evaluate the efficacy of restorative justice because it does not appear to be effective in curbing violence or promoting a good learning environment. Teachers are leaving and students aren't learning. We should return to effective disciplinary measures which are administered equally for every student. This is not just a safety issue, this is also a tool to retain good teachers. Another practice, DEI, should also be eliminated. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is the new affirmative action. At its core, DEI is reverse discrimination because it does not recognize merit. Affirmative action was practiced throughout most of my working career, which started in the 70s, and it made my life very difficult. Employers don't want to hire people because of their sex, their race, religion, or other characteristic. They want to hire a person that can do the job, period. They didn't want to increase their liability by hiring someone of color because they didn't feel that they could fire that person without getting sued. There are unintended consequences we must acknowledge when we seek to put policies in place, even when we have good intentions. Many companies are shedding their DEI policies due to their ineffectiveness to the bottom line. Look at California, which is currently burning. They should act as a beacon to everyone. Their DEI hiring policies have led to death, destruction, and numerous unintended consequences because merit was not a factor in hiring. I can also speak from my personal experience in having been in a fire and had to be rescued from a third-floor balcony. The last person I wanted to see coming up that ladder to rescue me was a person incapable of bringing me down the ladder successfully. I do not want a DEI doctor, nurse, police person, pilot, or any other profession where my life is in that person's hands. Can you honestly say that you would prefer someone of color or someone who looks like you to save your life? We can give every student an equal opportunity to education without focusing on immutable characteristics or personal identifiers which have nothing to do with actual learning. If you cannot read, write, or compute, this is the pipeline to prison. If a student is not performing at grade level, give them the needed individual tutoring to get there. If a student is performing above grade level, help them to achieve even more by providing greater challenges.
30 seconds.
In other words, meet children where they are and ensure that they achieve according to their ability and desires. In life, everyone does not get a trophy. The Department of Education's top priority should be education. It's not the Department of Mental Health or the Department of DEI or the Department of Restorative Justice. Instead of celebrating DEI, we should celebrate merit, achievement, and good conduct. By default, this will give DEI goals. It will achieve DEI goals in a way that does
Time
not
is up.
discriminate against anyone.
Thank you. Megan Gilbert.
Hi. Hello. All right. Hello, school board, and Happy New Year. I am a community member of District 8. Hello. And also a volunteer for the local Public School Strong campaign. And the main reason that I wanted to speak out tonight is I just wanted to thank you for, at the last school board meeting, passing that legislative agenda, which speaks directly to our board's feelings about our state utilizing public funds to go towards private schools with Governor Lee's latest voucher bill. This is especially important as just yesterday, Governor Lee announced a special session to expedite the passing of this voucher bill. Our volunteers have spoken to our state representatives, and they're telling us that they are wanting to hear from our school board, and they are counting every email and every call. So it is perfect timing for our school board to make it known that we in Hamilton County do not want the voucher policy to be expanded, as it hasn't shown to improve scores. Private schools are not held to the same standards. And this would be supporting a voucher program with unknown financial costs that have shown to be extremely detrimental in communities that have already tried similar models, not to mention inaccessible for many rural communities and not even a realistic option for those without the extra funds needed to cover the remaining cost of the private schools, given that, pending whether the private school even accepts the vouchers and the student. With that, I greatly appreciate all of you that have been talking to and surveying your communities and speaking out publicly on their behalf. Over 72 school boards passed resolutions against the last voucher bill Governor Lee attempted, and we're standing up again to say that Tennesseans don't want them, so I very much appreciate this support. I personally didn't like to see our school board become partisan, as I believe focusing on the greater good of all students can be better worked out when focus is on the students and not whether you're in alignment with whatever political party. But it is really great to see folks in agreement on both sides of the aisle. And it's given me a lot of hope that party doesn't have to be a problem in our public schools. But we all know how important community is, and schools are one of the first communities that a lot of us are a part of growing up. So thank you for listening to our community and taking action to protect our public schools and better the experience for all of the students and staff that make them up. Thank you.
Melanie Storer? I probably got that wrong. Is it Storer?
Hello. First, I want to thank all of y'all for serving on the school board. It's a big sacrifice, I know, but it's a big responsibility too. And I've not been coming to school board meetings, and I regret that, but I plan on coming more in the future. And when I was at the last school board meeting last week, I was very disturbed to hear the mother that got up and said that the Chromebooks allowed her child to view sexually explicit type material, things that she did not want her child to see. And so when I went home, I started thinking about that. And I'm a grandmother, and I'm very active in my grandchildren's life. I transport them to school and back. When I pick them up at school, I asked them, how was your school day? What happened today? My grandchildren went to Chattanooga Creative Arts. They're very creative children. And one day I picked up my grandchildren, and my grandson said to me, Grandma, they're calling me the white male oppressor at school. I said, what are you saying? He said, that's just what they're calling me. So I started thinking, what is that about? And it's about critical race theory. It's about calling white people oppressors just because of the color of their skin, and calling black people oppressed because of the color of their skin. And he was almost in tears because one of his best friends from elementary school was black. And I thought, what a very divisive and ugly thing to teach in a school, or to let go on in a school. And so then one day I picked up my grandkids, and my granddaughter told me, Socialism is good, Grandma. Socialism is good. And everything I've ever read or studied about socialism is bad. And I've always been a patriot. My family have been military people. They fought against oppression in this country, against slavery. They fought against Nazism. They fought against all of these oppressive ideologies. And then my grandkids are being taught socialism is good. That's another example of what's going on in our schools. And then when I heard that about all this pornography in our schools, I just couldn't believe it. I could not believe that our school system would allow books in the library that showed explicit sexual acts for our children to see, sexualizing our children at a young age, grooming our children, grooming them so that they're prey to predators, pedophiles, thinking that it's okay. People in authority allowing that material to be put there in the classrooms. I'm just asking, let's educate our children. Let's spend money on the basics. Let's get this ideology out of our schools. It's destructive to everyone. If you just ignore it or act like it's not happening, you're part of the problem. You should not be on the school board if you don't want to do something about it. This is our children, the next generation.
1 minute.
And it's not a matter of black and white. It's not a matter of whether you're conservative or liberal. It's a matter of doing what's right for our children and that they can grow up normal and healthy. And I was recently at a community meeting and the chief of police was there. And he said the biggest problem with sex trafficking in this city is parents on drugs who are trafficking their children. Now, you take a child that's got that kind of problem at home, and then you put them in a school with sex education books that show them how to have sex. How confused do you think that makes that child? And then the next thing I want to talk about is the transgender ideology in our schools.
Time.
I'll talk about that at a later date. Thank you.
Esther Maraghi. You want to pass? Okay. All right, Ms. Everyone.
Okay, thank you to all that presented tonight. We need to hear everything that's been said. Thank you. We all received an announcement, a letter this week from Carrie. Come on up, Carrie. And I asked her if she would come tonight and just briefly present to us in more detail of what she sent to us in an email just the other day. So, Carrie, thank you for taking time and coming tonight. Are they going to have those slides available for the public to be able to see? Is that what you're doing now? Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman Smith, and thank you for the invitation tonight, and thank you, Board, for having me. I'm here to talk about a really exciting community initiative that is not yours. So I think that's really exciting. This is for our kids, but the ask to you is just to be aware, and we love your ideas and support as you go about working in your districts. Perfect. Thank you so much. So the Chattanooga Future Fund, this has been a long time coming, but we're really excited to announce career and college savings accounts for all kindergartner and middle school students registered in Hamilton County Public Schools. So this is the community looking at our kids in the face and saying, we believe in you so much, we're investing in your future today. And a real financial asset that can grow for them over time and support their post-secondary dreams, okay? So I'm just gonna give you a little bit of information about it, and then I think, Chair, if it's okay with you, welcome questions, if any of the, okay, great. So the Future Fund is a pilot program right now we have planned for 5 years. We hope that it goes beyond the 5 years. That's just the start. That will provide every kindergartner and middle school student in Hamilton County Public Schools over the next 5 years with $150 in a career and college savings account. And this is really important, the opportunity to earn and save significantly more to prepare for whatever they have planned for post-secondary. And this particular account can be used for college in the traditional sense, 2- and 4-year degrees, but it can be used for apprenticeships, it can be used for workforce training, it can be used for to support a student while they're pursuing education, for living expenses, for books. So it has broad applicability, but it does have to be used for training or education beyond high school. We know, I think you all know, we know the data, but earning a degree or a credential after high school automatically opens the student up to earning more money and to being able to live the life that they want to live. It's hard to get stats on this, but currently the stat is that 70% of jobs in Tennessee by 2030 will require some kind of training beyond high school. And we expect that number to only go up over time. So we know that this is really important for the financial well-being of our students. So this is an asset that's theirs, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. It addresses post-secondary affordability and barriers to post-secondary. One of the things I'll say is a lot of people say $150 is not much money when you talk about post-secondary. That is true. It is not. However, this is a seed that can grow over time. That's the idea, and we'll talk about how that seed can grow in a second. But when you look at Chattanooga State, for example, they have a Helping Hands Fund. The average ask to that fund from a student is $300. That means that there's a $300 barrier for that student to continue their education. So we do know that sometimes it is a smaller amount of money that makes a difference, but our goal is to help families and students maximize this. There are more than 60 of these programs across the country. This one would be the first of its kind in the Southeast, and definitely the first of its kind in Tennessee. The research is growing. These have not been around for a really long time, but we're starting to see some of them mature in other places. And the state of Oklahoma has a program that's been around since 2007. And what they've seen is that children from low to moderate incomes that have anywhere from $100 to $500 in their account are 3 times more likely to go to post-secondary and 4 times more likely to complete. That's a pretty huge number. And let's go back to talking about how $150 or $100 is not a significant amount of money. What the research is showing is that there's a lot in this about hope and aspiration. So this idea that my future is bright, my community believes in me, I'm thinking of myself as doing something beyond high school from an early age, it can be transformative for students, is what this data is telling us. In San Francisco, they have a program where their first set of kindergartners has just gone to post-secondary, so we're learning from programs like that across the country. We also know that this impacts parents, so the data is pretty clear here that this is a relief to parents. They report overall higher mental health, aspirations for their children. It seems to reduce some of the worry around what happens next for their child on their path to success. So our goal is that every student in Hamilton County Public Schools have a financial asset for career and college
starting in kindergarten, and support from every part of our community. You all and the people up here are doing really hard work of educating students every day. So this is community coming in and saying, this is our role in supporting you in that next step. And have a friend and mentor who said something that really resonated with me. Thriving communities have hope. And this, to me, is it's a kernel of hope for all of our kids. So what does it look like, the $150? So what is the ask to families? We have right now about 13,500 students who are eligible. That's every student in kindergarten, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade currently registered. We have $150 reserved in their name. And all that their parent or guardian has to do is on January 23rd, they cannot do it today, so I just want to say that before people run out and try to do this. January 23rd, they will go to the Chattanooga Future Fund website. They'll enter some very simple information. They have opened their Chattanooga Future Fund account and claim their $100. When they take the second step of opening a college and career savings account, either with the state's 529 program, Tennessee Stars, or with Pinnacle Bank. We have two options for families. They will receive another $25 in that account. And then when they at any point deposit at least $5 in their account, they'll receive another $25, trying to incentivize thinking about savings on their own. And the reason that second step is so important is because we are really lucky to live in a state who has an unprecedented investment in this type of system. So the TIPS program is for low-income families up to 250% of poverty. They receive a 4-to-1 match for every dollar that they put in. So this means that about 60% of families in Hamilton County could have almost $2,000 in their account if they take full advantage of that. And we really think as a community, it's our job to make sure parents know about this and to support them in pulling down those funds and having them grow over time for their student. So we're really excited about that. The other thing I'll say, and we already have examples of this, is once these accounts are active, others can invest in them. And so I hope you can come next Thursday, and I hope the weather's good. That's the other thing I'll say. But I hope you can come because at that event we'll have some exciting announcements from local employers and others who are announcing investments in addition to what I've announced tonight in students' accounts. Because in this world, the community members, others can invest directly in our students. So this becomes a community platform, and you can imagine all the ways that community can get involved and support students in thinking about their plans for after high school and planning that bright future that we hope they all have. You should have received an invite. I hope you will all attend. We're holding a big launch event at Red Bank Middle. We will have students first and foremost there to celebrate, but we'll have local elected officials. Hopefully that includes you. The treasurer, Commissioner Lillard, is coming down to celebrate. They're very excited about us taking advantage of a state program for our kids and to pull down those state funds. So I think it's going to be a great celebration. And then the real work begins, which is to support families in accessing all of these tools and supporting them in signing up.
Okay, very good. Any questions? Yes. We've got several lights on here. Mr. King?
So I want to make sure I understand this straight. You said kindergarten and middle school. So is it a one-time fee, or do they get it in K, 6, 7, and 8, or just K, 6, 7, or 8?
That's a very astute question. It's a 5-year pilot. So if you do the math, the only grade we'll be missing right now is current first graders, and it's my pledge to try to find the money for them. So because it's 5 years, that means it would be a one-time investment in every kindergartner, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade over the next 5 years. But it would be one time, $150. Right. Yes.
And actually 155, counting what, 5?
If they put it in, and more. We hope they put in more. That's a great point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Connell?
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Carrie. This is awesome and exciting. So I'm going to first off say, Mr. Chair, so please, I'd like to add, I'm going to do a D under events and announcements, so we make sure in our next meeting to say this, to say the date that it opens up, to say the website again. So my question to you is, January 23rd. So at midnight goes live on January 23rd, or is there a time? Okay. And then will they be able to follow just step by step, or is there anything else they need to know after going to the website?
Great question. The only thing they need to know to sign up is their student ID number or their lunch number. So if you ask your kid, I have a kid, I've asked him his lunch number. So their student name,
Yes.
student ID, and they'll enter a zip code as well, just to match on eligible students. And that's all they need to
And
get
say,
started.
Dr. Robertson, that's the number that they can find also on Power School, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that everybody has all the information. So I will be repeating that in the general meeting too, so it's on both records. And thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Hayden?
That was from before, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Slater?
The only question I have, what happens after 5 years and you guys don't put any more money in?
Yeah, it's a great question. The Students Council will grow over time. If you're familiar with these, they will earn interest, and anybody who sets a count up over the next 5 years, that money will grow over time and it's theirs for eligible expenses. We did a 5-year pilot to raise, we're really around the fundraising for it. We hope that this continues in perpetuity with the community investment, and we hope that we really have a chance over the next 5 years to create a proof point, and the Chattanooga Future Fund lives forever to support our kids in perpetuity.
Mr. King?
So, they turn 18, they're in high school, ready to get out. They decide, so what's the restrictions, or what's the thing on who can draw it out and when can they draw it out?
That's a great question. We're following the state 529 rules. That is already a thing with the 529. If you're familiar, there's eligible education expenses. You submit those for approval. We're following the same rules as the state's 529. And so what happens is a family then, or a student, they would request that money and provide proof of what it's for, and it would be approved if it was eligible, or denied if not.
No more lights? Thank you, Mr. Randolph. I can't imagine why anybody would push back on this. Thank you for your work. And I think the really cool part about it is it's not HCDE, it's the community.
That's right.
And so thank you for your work and for getting this started for us. And thank you for coming tonight.
Well, and thank you all for the hard work you do. We're just trying to come alongside you and create pathways for success, so thank you.
Okay. So we're ready for another presentation, board processes and responsibilities involving charter schools.
Mr. Chair, Board, thank you for the opportunity tonight for some charter school training. My name is Jim Bowles. I'm the Director of Access and School Choice. And many of you are probably familiar with a lot of the information that we're going to share tonight. You have gone through a training yourself when Kelly Kofelt was here as our charter coordinator. But I'd like to introduce to you our new charter coordinator, Fanny Moore, who is going to do most of the presentation tonight. And I will be here as well to help answer any questions if there are any. It'll be drinking from the fire hose, and there may be additional questions or additional times where we may need to come back and answer any questions. But it is the season, so we're going to turn it over to Fanny Moore. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us an opportunity to speak to you this evening. Our charter school office mission statement states that we will practice rigorous charter or school authorization, provide meaningful support, and protect school choice in order to uphold high academic standards, create fair and equitable opportunities, and improve outcomes for students and families in Hamilton County. Our hope tonight is that we equip you so you can assist us as we carry out this mission. Why were charter schools developed? It's important to understand that as we move forward. And charter schools were created as an alternative vision for schooling to serve a special targeted population of students, or to gain flexibility and autonomy from local school districts. Within Hamilton County, you will see that many of our charter schools are located near and pull from our Midtown schools. For comparing numbers, we have 9 charter schools that serve 2,950 Hamilton County students. Midtown School District has 11 schools within their learning community. They serve 6,111 Hamilton County students, but within that community, you will find 2 mega schools, Howard as well as Harrison Elementary. If you were to take those 2 schools out, you are really looking at 9 schools versus 9 schools with charters having 2,950 students, and the 9 remaining schools serving 3,795 students. So it is a comparable amount of students when you compare 9 to 9. As I mentioned, we have 9 charter schools operating within Hamilton County. We have CGLA. Let me back up. The first charter schools opened in the year of 2008. Since then, we have added each year. Well, not each year, but to where we are now. Chattanooga Girls Leadership Academy and Montessori Elementary, they are 2 separate schools operating under the same nonprofit umbrella. You find the same setup with Ivy Academy and Skillern Elementary. The same setup is also true for the Chattanooga Charter School of Excellence. You have 3 levels, the elementary, the middle, and the high school. In addition to that, we have Chattanooga Preparatory School, and our most recent charter school opened this year, which is Chat Academy Community School. The newer schools are adding grade levels each year. So Chat Academy is not at capacity. They opened this year with 6th and 7th grade. That also stands true for CCSE High School. They're in their 3rd year, so they have 9th through 11th grade. Within our annual authorizers report, which I have given you a copy within your packet, you will find academic performance data for our charter schools. The scoring rubric comes from the Tennessee Charter School Performance Framework, and that's what was used to create the table. A score of 1 signifies that the charter school falls far below standard. 2, it does not meet the standard. 3, it meets the standard. Or 4, it exceeds the standard. The color coding signifies, if it's orange, that signifies that the school performed below Hamilton County schools, while the green signifies that the schools performed at or above Hamilton County School. This authorizers report is given to the State Department each January. It's due January 1st of each year. Some language that you will hear when speaking about charter schools: the authorizer is the LEA or agency who approves and monitors the charter schools. We, as Hamilton County School District, we are their authorizers. Tennessee is unique in that we serve as the charter schools authorizer and as their LEA. The charter agreement is the legal contract between the authorizer and the charter school. It's literally the charter. The charter school is the school operating under the charter within the LEA's jurisdiction. A CMO is a charter management organization. And then you might hear of the authorizer fee. That's the percentage of the charter's budget paid to the LEA to offset district charter operations. This has to be lesser of 3% or $35,000. Tennessee law and policy regarding charter schools and their LEAs have 3 sources: Tennessee Code Annotated, Tennessee State Board of Education, and the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission. The Tennessee Public Charter School Commission can authorize charter schools that have been declined by an LEA. We also follow the best practices and trainings that are provided by NACSA, or the National Association of Charter School Authorizers. The principles we follow within authorizing charter schools come from the Tennessee state standards for quality authorizing and are also included in our charter handbook. They include maintaining high standards, upholding school autonomy, and protecting student and public interest. Having school autonomy allows the schools to have a governing board that's independent from the authorizer's governing board. It allows them to hire their own personnel, create their own school vision and culture, choose their own instructional programming, and create their own scheduling. And it also allows them to oversee their school budget. In 2018, the TDOE published a model charter school performance framework. An authorizer is required to annually review each charter based on the district's adopted framework. That is, we used the model performance framework primarily to create the Hamilton County framework. Every 5 years, by law, we are required to do a 5-year review of the charter where the charter school will submit a mini application. Every 10 years, that charter is up for renewal, so the charter school can choose to reapply if they want to, and that's when we bring back a recommendation and the board votes on it. This year, we do not have any charter schools up for renewal, and we do not have any 5-year reviews. The framework that is used during the reauthorization cycle and is used to complete the annual authorizer report, like I said, is modeled after the charter school performance framework provided by TDOE. Within your packet, you will find that framework for you to review at a later time. It's quite lengthy. But it is broken down into three areas: academic performance and school culture, financial performance, and organizational performance. The academic performance is then broke up into 3 subcategories, including student achievement, which includes absolute achievement, growth, and chronic absenteeism. It also includes a comparative performance that compares the performance of the charter school between the school and the authorizing district's average. That comparison is done for ELA, math, science, and social studies. And the school culture. It measures aspects of the school culture by assessing the school's suspension, student attrition, teacher retention, and student attendance rates. We also look at the financial component. That's an important indicator of short-term and long-term success for a charter school. As far as the organizational aspect, what is included in that? It's areas such as educational programming, including compliance, ExEd, ENL compliance, and ExEd and ENL rights. It also includes financial reporting, facilities reflection, and student and employee rights. The state is looking to update their model framework so it matches current evaluation standards and laws. As they update their framework, we will also follow suit and update ours. So that is something we are looking at for the near future. To assist with providing feedback to our schools, we conduct 2 site visits each year. Hamilton County school leads from various departments assist with these visits. Typically, we have somebody that can assist us as we visit general education classrooms, ExEd classrooms, ENL classrooms. We conduct student interviews, we conduct teacher interviews, as well as admin, board, and parent interviews. We really want to try to get a full picture of what's happening day to day within our charter schools. Following those site visits, we do provide feedback to the administration and the leadership team. In 2019, TCA started requiring biannual evaluations of authorizers. It also requires us to do a self-evaluation in years that we are not going through the formal evaluation process. This year was a self-evaluation process for us as we were evaluated last year. In 2021, Hamilton County Schools was evaluated for the first time. We received a rating at that time of a 1.83 out of 4, which meant we were approaching satisfactory, and that resulted in a required corrective action plan. In 2023, we went through a second evaluation and we received a satisfactory rating of 2.39 out of 4. Our low score in 2021 was in large part due to not having someone dedicated to this work. The district was faced with completing a corrective action plan that included creating required documents, updating board policy, completing staff and board training, and the required charter school annual reviews. This was completed, and as I've mentioned, we did receive a satisfactory rating. But that again is in large part due to the fact that we now have somebody dedicated to this work. The evaluation is a very lengthy evaluation. It touches on every state standard that the authorizer is held accountable for. We submit documents and provide explanation of our work to the authorizers, and we also we participate in interviews. It is a lengthy process. We are, as Mr. Bowles mentioned, in the season of applications. So letters of intent were due by December 3rd, and you were notified of the 2 letters of intent that we received. The TDOE online application, if schools choose to go beyond that letter of intent and submit an application, those applications have to be submitted by 11:59 p.m. on February 1st. If February 1st falls on a weekend, it's the next business day. As soon as they submit that application, and this is really important, the clock starts ticking for us to stick to the review calendar. So currently, also just as a side note, we do charge our applicants a $2,500 fee for going through the application process. The review committee, so as I mentioned, the clock starts ticking as soon as they submit that application. So we have a review committee that pulls together individuals that are experts across the various fields that we assess. So we have people from Dr. Sharp's office, from teaching and learning, from XED, ENL, because we want to make sure that we have experts to properly go through the application process. And so that review committee uses the state scoring rubric and also conducts capacity interviews to ask follow-up questions or to seek additional information that may not be included in the application. Once that happens, we make a recommendation. The review committee makes a recommendation to you as the school board. And the board must vote and inform the applicant within 90 days of receiving the application. So again, that's why it's really important to note when the application is submitted. We have 90 days to do that. If the board fails to approve or deny the application within the 90 calendar day time limit, the application shall be deemed approved. If denied, the LEA must give notice and feedback within 10 days of the initial denial. At that point, the applicant has a decision to make. They can update their application or they can just take the denial. If the applicant updates an application and resubmits for board approval, the board then has 60 days to vote on the amended application. Again, if the board does not vote on the application within 60 days of resubmission, the application is deemed approved. If denied, the LEA must provide the applicant notice and feedback within 5 days. If the applicant then chooses to appeal to the Charter School Commission, they must do so within 10 days of denial. The Charter Commission's decision is final and is made within 75 days of receiving the application. If the Charter School Commission approves, They then give it back to the district, and we have 30 days to have further discussions with the applicant to try to reconnect and try to mutually agree on a decision. If the LEA decides we want to uphold our denial, then the Charter Commission will then monitor that school, even though they are within our district. For the current application cycle, like I mentioned, we have two proposed charters that have submitted letters of intent. Little Kings and Queens Charter Academy, the focus would be Montessori, and the grade structure that they are proposing is a K-1 structure. Their projected enrollment at capacity would be 25 students, and the location would be in East Ridge. Their projected opening year would be the 25-26 school year. The second letter of intent that we received is from Tennessee Wildflower Public Charter. They do have a sponsor, which is the Tennessee Wildflower Foundation. Their focus too would be Montessori. Their grade structure would be pre-K4, and their projected enrollment would be 108 students at capacity. Their location, they do not have a defined location at this time. However, their proposed pool would be somewhere between the east side, Woodmore to East Ridge, to west side, College Hill to the Bend. Their projected opening year would not be until the 26-27 school year. Like Mr. Bull said, we're making you drink through the fire hose this evening. So if you are interested in learning more, we have some resources for you. The Tennessee School Boards Association offers training for board members that are specific training for charter schools. And then there's the NACSA Leadership Conference that takes place in the fall and offers specific sessions designed for board members. And of course, we are always here as a resource as well, should you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. A lot of stuff there.
Can you go back to that last slide?
Yes. Can I go back to the next, the
last slide?
The last slide, absolutely.
Okay.
We will also take this time to pass out the conflict of interest form that is required for all board members to complete. Since we do have 2 letters of intent, we want to go ahead and get all that paperwork ready. You do not have to give it to us tonight, but if you would, you have 2, one for each school that has proposed, that has submitted a letter of intent. Once you sign it, if you don't mind giving it back to Mr. Doremus, he will make sure that we get your copy, okay? Thank you so much for your time.
Would you be willing to take maybe a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I might pull Mr. Bowles up here for added support.
Okay. Mr. King.
Could you go back to your the slide that was titled Authorizer Evaluations?
Is that the correct slide?
Yes. So where it says 2021 Hamilton County Schools, is that referring to just the charter schools?
No. So that is
referring to everybody?
That is an evaluation that's specific to the authorizers. So we are the authorizers, and every other year we go through a formal evaluation as their authorizer.
That was one clip. And then the other thing, and I'm not sure, it's not a question, it's a concern, but I looked back, so on CCSE High School, if you could answer, they've been in existence 3 years, correct? Because they're freshmen,
Correct.
sophomores, juniors. In those 3 years, their retention rate, is that for their last year, or is that for a total of the 3 years? 27.8%.
Can you tell me? No, that is for their last year.
Last year.
Correct.
And is that why we have an interim principal there now?
I cannot speak to that as to why they have an interim principal.
I guess my question there is, 3 out of 4 teachers left that school in that last year.
This is where it's where it kind of gets challenging, because we are the authorizer, meaning we have to follow state law, but in terms of operations.
No
we have
control of
no
that.
oversight of the
That's right.
operations.
That
But
is
I
part of
noticed
their
they
own.
do have an interim principal there, which means they weren't principal there last year. So,
Correct.
all right, that kind of answers my question. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I see no more lights. Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
We
you
have
for
yet-
your work with
Thank you.
our public charter schools. Thank you. Okay, takes us down to committee updates. So I'll start to my far left. Mr. Connor,
Buckle up.
what's happening in Natchez?
Buckle up. It's time for the session's in session. The governor just yesterday called for a special session. His special session will be over 3 specific items that could potentially be into one bill, an omnibus bill. The first item, as he lists them, is the Education Freedom Act, so vouchers, which we have heard many different points of view on, and we have personally, as a board, taken a stance asking them not to do the bill that they have before them. Hurricane Helene and disaster relief is the second part of it, trying to get funds out to the victims there. And then the last item on it is public safety and immigration. This one doesn't have a lot of details, but it's specifically directed towards trying to get some things that he has in place. His exact thing was making preparations to stand ready on day one of the Trump administration. So that is exactly what the 3 items are on the special session. I'll be in Nashville with TSBA for their legal summit in early February, so there'll probably be some things I can report back after that meeting. But as always, we'll see how this shakes out at the end of April and have a really good session to review everything that touches us personally and things that touches the kids throughout the state. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Connor. So, Ms. Schaefer, policy?
Our next policy meeting is March 4th at 5:30, and we will start our review of all policies on a quarterly basis. But I would just like to state that based on our discussions earlier in this meeting, policy 1.400, line 18, I'm going to look at amending to add an opportunity for questions back and forth with the public when they bring something to us, because we ask them to come, they give of their time, we only have so many board meetings, and then we don't have discussion with them. But when the department, HCDE, wants to give us a presentation, we have discussion with them. So I don't find that fair to our public who gives of their time to come and be involved. So I'm going to look at that policy since you said it's policy, and we will do that on March the 4th at 5:30.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Policy numbers that,
That's 1.400.
Line 18.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, very good. Mr. Daugherty, finance. We got any money?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Smith. We're going to have our first finance meeting in February, and I'll work with you all in the next 48 hours to find some time that works for everybody that month. This is not specific to maybe some of the more tenured board members, Caritza, you in particular, but I have asked Mrs. Houghton, our CFO, and she has gracefully obliged to come in and just provide a high-level overview of our budget and how it works. I think as a board, it's obvious, but just to state it, we have a responsibility to make a decision as a collective unit, and not speaking for everybody, but for many, mainly the new board members, I think it'd be helpful just to get a high-level understanding of the budget, so that we feel better prepared and in a position to vote on it come budget season. And the last thing too, Justin, you and I have talked about this, and for me as the chair of the finance committee, one thing I want to be really intentional with is having a more regular cadence to avoid some of the challenges we had last year with the budget being so late in the year. So I think transparency and visibility is important as we kind of embark going into this year.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. King, facilities.
So we closed out our RFP on custodial. We had 13 different companies turn in RFPs. Our county facility committee will narrow that down to 3. If you would put February 24th on your calendar. We will have at 4:30 on February 24th, we will have a facility meeting, and the final 3 will present 30-minute presentations to us. The grounds closes out tomorrow. At this time, there are 5 different companies putting in for the grounds upkeep, and we know of at least 1 more turning in tomorrow. So those we will look at either at the same time or possibly. That one is not contract guided, so that one we can take later on, but we do have to make a vote on the custodial by the March meeting. So
What time?
that'll be at 4:30 on February 24th. Okay, go ahead.
Steve, can you send us calendar invites? That'd be most helpful. Thank you.
And we will have, I'll have him send an agenda in a couple weeks when we get, once we know who the final 3 are and that, we'll put out an agenda. So I'll get that to you in another week or 2. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Groen, Transportation.
Mr. Allen is arranging a meeting between representatives of the owners, operators, and we'll be meeting sometime next week. So I'll have to get back with you, Mr. Chair, after that meeting.
Okay, very good. Very good. Did I miss anybody? I don't think so. Dr. Robinson, you and I talked a little bit about this. You know, historically, at least once a year, we have a board retreat, if you will, and we just had one, not just a month or 2 ago. I think maybe just some in mind in your conversation, we talked about maybe once a year is not enough, and I think that's true. And I would like to see us maybe have a half a day together or an evening together to really take a deep dive, especially into special ed, into books. I think it's time for that, and to where we can really have some discussion about that. So maybe if you and Mr. Steve would get together and doodle polls or something, and let's see when there's a time we can all get together.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. It looks like it's 5:49, so it doesn't leave us a lot of time to discuss our board meeting agenda. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just pause us right now, take a break, and we'll discuss our meeting agenda during our meeting agenda. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll call our work session to a close. Take just a 10-minute break here.